And here we go. It is finally time for the last two figures in the Mecha Invasion set. These guys are my most recent acquisitions. They just came in less than a week ago as of recording. Just a few days ago, really. They are cool, and also there's a specific thing that really bugs the crap out of me about these guys. I feel like it's pretty obvious right here. The figures themselves are good for what they are. It's just they're both the same figure, which is really disappointing. Like, I know Bonecrusher and Scavenger, or in this case, Bulldozer and Excavator, but I'm going to call them Bonecrusher and Scavenger going forward. They do typically share engineering across all the different iterations of toys they've had, whether it's official or third party or whatever, because they have the treads at the bottom, and the treads are typically, if not exactly the same, at least very close in how they're handled. So like their lower bodies and legs are usually about the same. But here, they're the same. The only thing that makes these guys different is like the backpacks and like a couple of small bits. But basically, either of these figures is just a flat plank sitting on treads and then some extra stuff sprinkled on top. So Scavenger has the crane arm and the little cockpit thing here and like this little silver flap up here. And then Bonecrusher has the cabin up here, this little pipe that a lot of people forgot to flip up in the early videos of this guy, and the shovel in the front, and like that's it. It's like Combiner Wars in how similar they are. There's obviously different molding, which is good, but then there's obviously similar molding. Like the back section of Bonecrusher here is pretty much exactly the same as what's going on here. The only difference is the way that these bits are painted, but like they're molded the same. It's not making me mad, even though it might sound like it is. It's just something that disappoints me about this, because they went so hard on the designs of this entire set. They've got Mixmaster and Scrapper becoming arms instead of legs. These guys become legs instead of arms. And it's some really interesting ideas that they came up with, and like the engineering is great, it's fun. These guys transform well. I like these toys. It's just disappointing that they're both the exact same figure, functionally. Bonecrusher's, like, I feel like if his canopy section was bigger, it might not look quite so awkward, because this is just, again, it just kind of looks like a flat plank on top of treads with some stuff thrown on. And Scavenger, like look at all the space you've got back here. It's practically a flatbed trailer. But again, this is just a thing that disappoints me about these guys. With that out of the way, I do like them. I think they're neat. I like the detailing. It's a lot of the same kind of detailing we've seen with all the other ones, where you've got this nice pale green, some gunmetal and silver all over the place, some black, some purple. Well, Bonecrusher does not have any of the purple, because that's how his design is. But Scavenger has purple in the sides of the treads there, which is nice. There's lots of nice molding around here, even though, you know, when you get to the top of Scavenger, it's kind of like, what even is any of this? And also this thing. I don't like this thing on Scavenger. This is just a holdover from the center piece for the shovel here on Bonecrusher. And this doesn't need to exist. Like, I guess it cleans this up a little bit. Like, it covers that up and gives you a little something going on there, but like, it doesn't serve much of a purpose. They didn't even need to put this in here. And it has this like swivel to it that's just because that's what this does for the combine mode. So try not to complain. They look fine though. They're a little awkward. Definitely the most awkward of the six, but they're fine. I do like though that they have weapon storage, and it just tucks in right in here. You do have to just de-transform them a little bit in order to get the guns in and out, just because of the shape in there. They kind of taper out a little bit towards the back, so it can't just slide straight up. You have to like disconnect the treads to get a little bit more space, but that's fine. And this just folds down, and there you have gun, and there's Scavenger's head. Yeah, I like how this folds up and kind of hides the robot mode head on the bottom. I do like them. They're just a little bit samey in their construction. Now, in terms of size, they are a decent size. These, I guess they're about liter-ish, but like small liter. They got the density, but they are a little bit, they feel smaller than the other figures in this set because of the fact that they're just little pancakes on treads, but still a good size. As you can see, they work well with Scrapper and Hook Scrapper and Hook, Scrapper and Mixmaster. I guess they're about the same amount of mass visually. It's just these guys are like flatter and more spread out. These guys are a little bit taller and more like squished in on the sides. And here they are with Hook and Long Haul. And yeah, the Hook and Long Haul definitely appear much bigger than these two. I think when we get them into the robot modes, you'll see they're pretty much the same height, but again, very different builds. These guys are kind of skinny. Here they are with their Gravity Builder counterparts and the oversized knockoff Jinbao version of the Gravity Builder set. So yeah, these are, they definitely feel smaller than the oversized knockoffs, but I imagine they're probably either about the same size or maybe even a little bit bigger than the official not official, but the actual Gravity Builder figures. I just don't have those to compare. I just have the knockoffs. And here they are with the Unite Warriors duo, which are way smaller. way smaller. See, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Unite Warriors, Bonecrusher and Scavenger, and the Gravity Builder / Jinbao version. From the waist down, they're either very similar or identical, but from the waist up, they are different figures. You just don't get that with these two. That's what bums me out. I wouldn't mind if the tread sections were the same, but like the whole figure's the same. Anyway, it's a little tricky to line up, but here is the entire team together for a quick kind of group shot. And here they are with the duck tank. Computer went to sleep while I was transforming stuff off camera, so hopefully that doesn't mess up with this recording. Seems to still be working. So, before we transform these two, if you like this video for whatever reason, you want to support the channel, I've got a Ko-fi and a Patreon, links to both at the end of the video, as well as down in the description. Otherwise, typical YouTube stuff of like, comment, share, subscribe. That also helps. Now, to transform these guys, we're going to start with Bonecrusher, and then I'm going to go through Scavenger a little bit quickly because they're effectively the same transformation, barring a couple of very minor differences. So for Bonecrusher, first thing I'm going to do is lift up the little canopy section here just before I forget, because there are these little tabs down here that this tabs into, and I don't want to like try and separate this back here without forgetting to do that. So just bring that up, take this little pipe here and fold that down. And this is where things get a little bit tricky in how this all works. So effectively, you want to get the legs down, but like stuff gets a little crashy up here. So first, going to pull these apart just to kind of get things separated, and now these blades can swing down. This just kind of can just come up to get out of the way for now. Now we want to unplug these little bits back here. There's little tabs here, right in there. There's little silver tabs up here that tab into the underside there. Split this bit in the middle. There we go. And with that split open, now we can get the gun out. So we can kind of just reach in here and pull up. That just comes right out. There's this little like sort of HI whatever shape thing that goes into that. There we go. That similarly shaped divot down there. And this just straightens out, and that's Bonecrusher's gun. Now this is kind of the tricky part. What I find helps a little bit is take these bits, which will become the toes, and fold those around, just because you're going to want more room to like bring these in, and you don't want these crashing into each other. But effectively what you want to do is you want to take these sections and rotate them down. But this kind of plastic up here clashes a lot. So what I end up doing is doing like a click and then kind of shifting slightly and just trying to bring it around. It looks like it went smoother than it actually did, because there is a little bit of parts clashing because you've got this double joint up in here, and that's what you kind of want to hinge this around and kind of bring this down and out at the same time. And it's very tricky getting that around this piece up here. You could bring this out because that is how this transforms. But the problem is, you can kind of see it on Scavenger here, that black tab is on the other side of the green piece, so you can't really do that. So you're flexing plastic no matter what you do, which is just a little unfortunate. But anyway, I'm going to do this the way the instructions show, but I don't like the way the instructions show, and I'll address that later. But these just kind of come down and sit like this to make little knee plates. With the knee plates done, I'm going to pop this silver piece out. Tabs in pretty securely. Try this side first. There we go. So this pops out, comes down, and this entire section, this lower section, rotates around 180 degrees. And this comes back up, and now it plugs in here. And then you can take this piece and lower that, and that comes down to make the foot. And that's one leg. So from this side, I'm going to show this one, you untab this, rotate the lower section around, tab this back in, and then swing this up for foot, and that is it. That is Bonecrusher's lower body all done. This can come back down. This entire assembly here hinges up, and this will actually tab in up here. So this swings up and tabs in. This just stays down. You don't rotate this. That's for combined mode. But before we do that, actually, I'm going to take the waist and rotate that 180 degrees. Now this can come back down, and that'll just stay. This will just stay down there. This can come down. Going to take these panels here, and these fold back in. Basically, there's like this double hinge in here. So you want to swing this in, rotate it down, and once it's rotated down and into place, this kind of feeds up into here and plugs in to finish off the torso. So again, bring this in, swing this down, shift this down and into place, and plug it in. Pretty simple. And now up top here, these split apart, and this tabs in a couple of places. They tab in up here, but there's also a tab down here that tabs into this panel in the center. So this untabs and comes down, untabs and comes down. The arms can now rotate 180. These bits bend out for the elbows, can rotate biceps, bring the arms down the rest of the way now. And then for the forearms, these bits fold out, and then this panel folds back and tabs into place, and that will both fill in the underside of the forearm and kind of lock the fist in place so it can't go anywhere. So from the side, bring this out, then fold that back. Lastly, this whole panel rotates all the way around and kind of tabs into place. And then for Bonecrusher, there are these little tabs right back here behind the head, and these little slots on the underside of this canopy section. You want to bring this down, and you notice kind of these tabs are at an upward angle slightly. That's because this comes down at an angle and tabs over them. And you want to make sure you hold this in place, like hold this flap in place, because it can get pushed out of position if you're trying to go, bring this in, and it'll just not tab in properly. So hold this down, then bring this in, and that will plug in and shore everything up. And there we've got Bonecrusher. Now for Scavenger, I am going to go through this a little bit faster because, as I said, it's more or less the same transformation with a couple of very small differences. So first off, just to show you what I was talking about with this, you can untab these panels here, but they kind of stick against this black piece here. So then you kind of have to rotate up and flex to get that out of the way, but it can be done. That may even be easier, I don't know. On this side, you want to untab this and swing it up first to make sure that's not in the way, and then bring this out. There we go. And this will stay like this for now. For the lower body, it's exactly the same as Bonecrusher's, just untab this, separate this, bring out the gun, straighten it out off to the side. Now with these bits out of the way, this should be easier to just rotate and then drop down. Rotate and drop down. Fold these bits out for the toes. Untab these bits. Rotate this 180 degrees. Tab it back in. swing this down, and there is a foot. You don't have to, obviously, because this is Scavenger, not Bonecrusher, you don't have to mess with the shovel blade pieces or whatever they are, the earth-moving bits. But it's, other than that, it's the same thing. So do that, bring this down, and there is Scavenger's lower body all done. Now, going to bring this down, bring this down. This silver panel here folds up, and it doesn't fold up all the way yet because these bits up here are in the way, but this folds up. That'll give us the room to bring this up. These bits separate, and just like with Bonecrusher, they swing down, and those will become the arms. Now this panel can come down the rest of the way. These bits function just like Bonecrusher, so swing that down, and then up and into place to fill in the chest. Swing it down, bring it up, and line it up, put it in. There you go. For the arms, same deal. You can swing these down, swing this down, swing this in, and then this bit just rotates 180 and then comes down at the shoulder. And then this will swing around, and I screwed this up. Because of the joint for the shovel in here, that actually does not give you enough space to get the head in place. So what you want to do is you want to actually unplug this, because that gives us more room for the head. And now this panel can rotate around, and once it's rotated enough, you can bring it back up, tab it in, tab that in, bring this down, and this just sits like that. And then this comes up and just tucks away like that. And lastly, give the, first get this out of the way, but lastly, give the waist a little twist, and there is Scavenger. I vastly prefer Bonecrusher of the two of them stylistically, just because I feel like Bonecrusher has a little bit more going on. He doesn't have any purple like Scavenger has the purple on the sides of the treads and in the waist, but he has the green in the knees, which I definitely think helps. And also, I don't like how this looks. I don't like the scoops for the fronts of the knees. I just think that looks kind of silly. What I think looks better is if you bring this up and rotate it 180 degrees and then bring it down like this. And I feel like that looks like a proper knee pad. This just looks like shovels on his knees. That's what I do for this. Just bring that up, rotate it around, and then bring it back down. For me, at least, that's an improved look for this Bonecrusher. But again, here they are. I do think they are cool. I just think that Bonecrusher is cooler, and I am still disappointed that they're functionally the same figure. But I will say, at least they managed to make them look a little different. I mean, obviously you've got the knee pads here, but like they did the different paint detailing on the shoulders. Like the molding is the same, but Scavenger has the silvery bits or gunmetal-y bits on the center there, whereas Bonecrusher has like the line going through instead. The chests are different in terms of molding as well as coloring. They've got kind of the same midriff though, and like the waist sections are the same. They're just painted and molded in different colors. But they tried to separate it out at least a little bit. Scavenger has his telltale silver plank, but then Bonecrusher has this going on. It doesn't really look like the inverted shovel that his chest is normally made up of. That doesn't bother me per se, because this set does go off script in terms of how everything works. Like Scavenger's bucket or shovel, whatever, becomes his feet. So like that's fine. It's very similar, but I do think Bonecrusher wears it a little bit better. But they're fine for what they are. They're pretty cool. They're relatively clean too. You've got some kibble, but it's nothing terrible. And like Scavenger, this is just normal for Scavenger having the thing on his back, so that doesn't really bother me. I don't really care much for this with Bonecrusher, but it's also not really noticeable from the front, so it's whatever. It's just this on Scavenger again, like it just kind of is there. It doesn't really serve a purpose other than it's just kind of arbitrary leftovers from sharing a mold with this guy. And it doesn't like functionally do anything. It just kind of covers up some gaps, and mostly it's just in the vehicle and combined mode, because like this is his butt flap in robot mode, so this isn't going to matter to anybody. You can leave it up if you want, so that it doesn't get in the way of his waist swivel at all. I will admit that I like how Scavenger's shovel tucks into his back partially. Yeah, here they are. They look good, but as I said before, I don't really think I would call them my favorites of the 6 figures of this set. Scavenger's head, it looks very Scavenger. It is still stylized, but like I like that they gave him a little like red dot thing on the side. It's very boxy, as it should be. His head does the light up thing, still using the cat butt magnet. And the magnets are built into the guns, unlike Hook and Long Haul. Hook and Long Haul's thing is their lights do work, but the magnets on their guns are kind of dinky. So trying to use Hook or Long Haul's guns to activate the lights doesn't really work. You end up having to use the magnets in like the other characters' guns or getting a different magnet. I'm just using a different magnet because it's easier, but the magnets on these guns, they're on the underside of the barrel there, and they do work. So at least there's that. It's not like a Hook and Long Haul situation where the magnets are kind of pathetic. But yeah, that is Scavenger's head, and I think it looks good. It fits what they're doing here. But again, I think Bonecrusher does end up looking a little bit better. I just think his head is more interesting. I like the kind of mining helmet light thing they've got going on top there. I don't know, I like this head a bit more. Still does the light up thing. And this is like more of like a classic Bonecrusher look where he doesn't have a mouth plate. He's just got the kind of silvery humanoid face. I think it's a nice head. I think it looks cool. And it is pretty expressive. So for articulation, we're going to look at Bonecrusher primarily because he's the one that's the most restricted. But real quick, we're going to bring in Scavenger and just look at his head. So the head can tilts pretty okay. Can look up and down really nicely though, and can actually do a full 360 unlike some of the other figures in this set. The limb articulation on these guys is the same though, except like Bonecrusher's, we'll get to it. Bonecrusher's head does not get a whole lot of side-to-side tilt. That is disappointing, but can look up and down somewhat decently and can rotate all the way around, so not as expressive as the rest of them, which is kind of disappointing, but it still works. The arms, you've got, again, double jointed elbows, or shoulders, so they can go out on this joint, but they can also go out on this joint. So his arm can go way up, or it can go out like this, and it does rotate, but because of the fact that you've got this joint here, it's like you basically have the trigger happy / hot rod shoulders, but you also don't, because you can do this, instead of having to go up like this and angle it like that. So I like that the shoulder range on both of these guys is better than a lot of the other ones, a lot of the other figures in this set. In this set of six, I should say. You get bicep swivels, you get elbows that are rather snug, but you get elbows, and they do bend well past 90. That's a really deep elbow bend. You may notice this. This is for the combine mode. This, I do kind of wish this tabbed in, but I also understand why it doesn't, because if you look under here, this is just that joint, so unless it plugged in a very specific spot, there's no way it would work. And also, this kind of gets pushed out of the way slightly as you move this joint, so that's also probably why it doesn't tab in. You get waist rotation, which can't, like, it kind of wants to go all the way around. This flap kind of gets in the way for some reason, but if you untab it a little bit, you can go around more. And this is about as far as you're going to get with Bonecrusher, because this piece is going to hit the hips, and it cannot go up any further unless you untab this from the back. So not going to do that, but I think that's pretty decent. The hip outward motion only goes about that far. You can kind of fudge it using that double joint a bit and kind of go out maybe a little bit further, but you're really not going to get a ton of outward motion on these hips. You get thigh rotations, and on Scavenger, the thighs go all the way around. On Bonecrusher, not so much if you have these pieces down. You can rotate them up, and if you rotate them up, they can get out of the way enough so that you can get that full rotation. But the problem is they have to be way the heck up here, and once they're up, you can't really bring them back down. They're kind of stuck in that position. So yeah, Scavenger has the full thigh rotation, Bonecrusher does not. You do, however, get hi. It's an Astrid. Astrid, stay on lap, okay? Stay on lap. You can be in the video, but just stay on my lap. So for forward and backward motion, the hips are on ratchets and can go forward almost to 90, and then back not quite to 90. Astrid, what did I just say? The knees are intense because they kind of have to be. We'll get to that in the next video, but they do bend all the way around. It's a little tricky because of the clearances of the stuff going on up in here. Like these tread pieces kind of want to smash into each other, but you can bend the knee quite a bit. And this piece is actually die cast, this actual knee piece. And I like that it's molded like treads, so it kind of blends in with what's going on above it. But anyway, you get full bend at the knee. And then for the feet, you do get pretty significant ankle tilt. But in addition to that, you get rotation. And due to the transformation, you get forward and back rocker. So the leg articulation on these guys is actually pretty nice. Oh, she's wedging her head into my sternum. So like you can do the kind of leaning forward pose thing if you want. And also because like you've got that limitation on the thigh rotations with Bonecrusher, but like you can use the ankle rotation to kind of like, it doesn't make the thighs rotate more, but it gives the illusion that the legs are rotated more because you've got the feet kind of pointed out a little bit more. So you can kind of work around it. So that is the articulation, and that is the same for Bonecrusher as it is for Scavenger because they're the same exact figure, barring the fact that he doesn't have knee plates. Oh, also, they both have wrist swivels. I forgot to mention that. There are wrist swivels. Pretty decent articulation for the two of them. Not the best out of the entire set, but still good. More than anything, I'm just kind of a little bit meh on Bonecrusher's things getting in the way. That happens a lot with Bonecrusher. He tends to have struts that get in the way of articulation somehow. In terms of size, as we've established by now, these guys are pretty big. Roughly modern leader height, kind of. So yeah, they're pretty big, but these guys do look a little lanky compared to some of the other figures, especially Hook and Longhaul in this set. And here they are with their Gravity Builder / Jinbao oversized knockoff counterparts. And they're about the same height, but again, these two appear much bulkier. In all honesty, I still think I prefer the aesthetics of what's going on here compared to these two, unlike with Hook and Longhaul. But I gotta say the transformation on these guys is way more straightforward, so at least there's that. But yeah, here's how they look together, and I feel like, again, what is it with the... It's always the thigh swivels on Bonecrusher, because these little things here get in the way. He just can't get away from this problem. Here they are with their Unite Warriors counterparts, and again, just more than anything, not just the slightly different aesthetics going on here that I really like with this set, I also really like the colors here better. I like that the green isn't quite neon. This is more like yellow, just a yellowy green, and I just prefer this. Though I like the more vibrant purple on this set. I feel like that would have been nice here, but I get like the tones kind of match between that and the green here, so I get it. And finally, here is the whole group, all 6 of them together. And yeah, once again, they're all roughly the same height. Scavenger, Hook, and Mixmaster look a little taller because they've got the junk in the back that kind of goes up over their heads, but like if you look at head height, they're about the same height all the way around. Bonecrusher and Scavenger definitely look a little bit scrawny next to Hook and Longhaul. They're maybe a little bit bulkier even than Mixmaster and Scrapper, because those two are really skinny, particularly Scrapper, but I don't know. I think they all look good together, and I feel like if we did something like this, maybe, like just swap them around a little bit, that I think works, because with these two guys not standing next to each other, it's not quite as obvious that they're the same figure. But I think this is a good looking team. And finally, here they both are with the duck tank. And that does it for Mecha Invasions, Bonecrusher, and Scavenger. Like I said multiple times throughout this video, I think this is the weakest of the 3 sets, but that doesn't make it a bad one. Just the first 2 were both peak in their own ways, so this is not a valley, but it's not as spectacular. I feel like if they'd led with this set, it would have been better, because it would have been like, oh, this is interesting, this is cool. It's a little bit of a departure. They're a little bit of the same, but it's whatever. And then like just progressively step it up from there. But maybe they didn't want to lead with these because they are basically just you're getting the same figure twice. I don't know. But they're cool. I like them. I think the set's fun as like individuals. I think that they look good in a group, and I think they look especially good in combined mode, which is what we'll be looking at next time. But for now, that's going to do it. So why don't you all let me know what you think of these guys or this set or whatever. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and next time I will be talking, hopefully not quite at length, about the combined mode.